Hey guys, it's Matt. I've wanted to look into this Ring Around the Rosie children's song or game for a long time. I guess what I found over the last hour and a half or so is just stranger, darker, and I'm not talking about those that want to call out to me and say, Matt, everybody knows that's a reference to the plague. I'm not even talking about that. I wouldn't insult your intelligence and make some video about you know it's a reference to the plague. It is a per the title of this. I wanted to say a few things before mentioning the title of this video. It's not lemon, of course. We know what it is. It's John Lennon. It's John Lennon. So it's not a stuffed lemon. Matt, you're being so super over paranoid with your hobo code. No, I'm not. I'm really not. Trust me. Putting it in the title, calling attention to it, or it's disparaging. They would call it disparaging to a foreign culture and shut me down for a week. Trust me, I've gotten slapped for less. What we call a stuffed Lennon is also a Humpty Dumpty. Things that are carried through time by reality itself, dark reality, with assistance from the minions or dark minions, things that just would not exist, have no right to exist even for a few weeks, let alone century after century, if there's not a reason that dark reality wants to carry these things artificially through time. And I don't want to disappoint anybody. If you're gonna, this could be a truck driver's or a long haul truck driver's special. This could go close to 45 minutes or more. I don't know. I don't want to disappoint you. I have no answer at the end. If you can't even interpret exactly what Ring Around the Rosie is. No, I can't. All I'm saying is, and the fascination to me is, it's a massive Humpty Dumpty. It's a massive stuffed Lennon that has no business being in the last century, no business being in this century, no business where 3 out of 4 people in the world know exactly what this is, with different songs and different cultures. And here's the Swedish version, here's the Norway version, here's the Swiss version, I don't think there's a Chinese version. It wouldn't surprise me that the fascination of it being so artificially carried through time as a stuffed Lennon or a Humpty Dumpty. That's what's fascinating to me. I have no exact answer on the end as to what exactly they're doing here or why. It's just the fascination of it being carried through time and reinforcing the theory that stuffed Lennons or Humpty Dumptys exist, and the minions in the dark reality need to carry things that shouldn't even have existed for more than a day through time for centuries. What they get out of it, in this case, I'm going to be honest, I don't know. We'll explore it together. And again, a first grade truthers jumping up in the back of the classroom, jumping up, Matt, it's the reference to the plague. Yeah, we know that. Do you want a Pootie Tang Award? We know that, first grade truthers. It's not our first rodeo up here. Sit down and put the spitballs away. Okay, a minute and a half or less for anybody that doesn't know what a stuffed Lennon is. Also, we'll just call it a Humpty Dumpty from now on. Humpty Dumpty is the best way to understand it. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Everybody knows that rhyme or nursery rhyme or whatever almost anywhere in the world. Now, we've been over this many times. Now, 1 minute or less, I promise. It's so stupid. It's so juvenile. Whoever wrote it down in a bar drunk or presented it to their mistress that evening before doing the deed or whatever, it would have been forgotten about. I said, well, that's nice, I guess, but don't ever mention that again. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. It's not good enough. It's not John Lennon's Imagine. It's not good enough. It's artificially somehow, per reality itself, per the dark minions, whatever, carried through time artificially. We're not going to get into a big Humpty Dumpty thing. We know it's carried through time because it carries a very important and powerful spiritual message. It has to. The creeps don't want that message carried forth. It might be in their contractual obligation to carry something like that forth. We've talked about the true meaning of Humpty Dumpty many times. We'll talk about it later. Matt, a minute ago, did you say spiritual when you're trying to say spiritual? You said spiritual. Yeah, those of us close to the I-95 bridge collapse have problems. See, we said that right there. Problems, not problems, with certain words. Those of us too close to the I-95 bridge collapse outside Philly. Sorry about that. I'll do better with my pronunciation. So we've been talking a lot over the last few years about these Humpty Dumptys. Talked most recently about Don't Look Back. The theme of Don't Look Back, whether it be Lot's wife in the Bible or Orpheus and Eurydice, Who would name their kid Erudite in the Greek, or just comes up in movies? Don't look back at your old farmhouse. It just comes up too much. There's a spiritual meaning there that we've talked about. So these things are called Humpty Dumptys or stuffed Lennons. Matt, it's 5 minutes in. You haven't even started talking about Ring Around the Rosie. Bathroom boys, we don't need you here. We don't want you here. This is for long-haul truckers. Go away. Okay, 1 minute or less on just start with the absolute basics and we'll work up from there. In the United States, it's sung a certain way. It's sung many different ways back through 300 or 400 years in many different parts of the world. We'll look at those. In the U.S., where I grew up, we did it. Everybody does it for some reason. Completely artificial. American version, Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posy, Ashes, Ashes, we all fall down. We all fall down. Common British version, it says here, is, and we'll stop here and we'll then continue with other versions later. Ring, O roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue. What the hell? A tissue, we all fall down. What was that, Matt? Like a tissue, like a Kleenex or something? It's pronounced that way. No, it's A-tishoo. I don't know what that is. Okay, what immediately stood out as interesting to me is, say, 10 years ago, or those in the truth community would say, everybody knows, Matt, we know that is just a reference to the plague. The plague of, we love the year too. Check the year out, Jeff. The plague of London, 1665 to 1666. The 1666 has got the 3 6s. The 1665's got the 3 6s. 2 6s in the middle, the 5 and the 1. Oh, yeah. That doesn't mean it's the devil. It's reality just constantly giving itself away. We'll debate that some other time. But you go out to YouTube and here's the narrative now. It's fascinating to me how these narratives change and how reality adjusts and flip-flops. So now, if you go and just watch a few YouTube videos, and trust me, that you don't want to watch some of the channels I watched. One was very dark, this person. I'm not even going to mention the name. I got a creepy feeling I haven't gotten in a long time. But it's about debunking. That's what the narrative now is on YouTube. With these channels that have 1 million subscribers, or that, everybody who knows if they really have that many subscribers? I doubt they do. But it's about debunking now the plague theory. Well, people would step up and they're so sure that Ring Around the Rosie was about the plague, but let me tell you why that's wrong. Let me tell you why that's impossible. It's all right now about debunking the plague theory. Why, Matt? I don't know right now, but you can see that is the reality narrative that wants to take place on Ring Around the Rosie. So let's look at each line of the friendly little song related to this plague theory. Okay, Ring Around the Rosie. The plague theory regarding this song says those stricken with plague, 1665 through 66, had these rashes on them. That's how you knew they had plague. And they were ring-like, rosy-colored rashes. Okay, next line. Pocket full of posy. Now, posy is a formal flower arrangement, but in this case it would be like flower pieces or herbs, or my grandmother used to make something called potpourri, where she'd have this stuff in a jar. She's like, "Come here, Matt, smell this." So, ooh, that's nice. That's lavender, all these fresh scents in the jar. She called it potpourri. So I imagine the pocket full of posy would be like having flower pieces. Not that having it in the pocket's going to help if you're around these stinky, sick bastards. But you could then whip it out of the pocket, I guess. This is just my own theory. Having it in the pocket ain't going to help you if you're around these stinky bastards. Sheets haven't been changed for months with these people. You could whip it out of the pocket, put it in front of your face and mouth, and then you're somewhat protected. Same principle as these plague doctors. You've seen the doctors with the long beak, mask, and the black robes. Well, they say that the beak was so the posy or the herbs or the potpourri could be filled in that long beak, not just to protect the doctor from the stinky smells of the sheets that haven't been washed for months, but they actually believe that the fresh scent of flowers some way was like armor or protection, because they thought bad smells, I guess rightly so, they thought bad smells carry disease. So you'd stuff that long beak thing with the posy. I'm just trying to relate this all together the best that I can. I could be wrong. but you take it out of your pocket, you stuff it in your beak, but not everybody that was in the family had the beak masks that the damn doctors had. Speaking of the beak masks, I mean, these people were sick. 105 fever, and then here comes somebody to treat you. Looks like some demon coming around the corner in the long black robes and this scary-ass beak mask. That probably killed more people than the plague itself. Anyway, where are we? So that's the posy. Ashes, ashes. We better burn these bodies, right? Or it's going to spread, right? Ashes, ashes. It'd be like that scene in Monty Python. Bring out your dead. Bring out your... You got to burn these poor bastards. So that's the ashes, ashes. Or if you don't burn them and it spreads, then we all fall down dead. All right. So the weird thing I'm noticing is all these YouTubers coming out saying they're real insistent that there's no basis for this plague theory. And that's what everybody thought. But there's no basis for it whatsoever. And I'm going to debunk it. And see, the plague theory didn't come out until somewhat recently. Well, where was the plague theory then for the past 400 years or back to 1600 or what? They're just so insistent. It's like, okay, reality or the dark part is just now, okay, they wanted plague theory introduced regarding Ring Around the Rosie. That's why we all know it. Now they're trying to debunk it. Who knows their creepy ways or why they do it? I just find it fascinating that now it's shifted to those, the debunkers are out saying, no, you have no basis for believing Ring Around the Rosie has to do with plague. Why they do this or what reality is up to, and understand this would be insane to anybody stumbling upon this. I don't know, but I see an absolute shifting of gears here because I didn't watch a lot of YouTube videos, but the narratives all match up. Did you know there's no basis whatsoever for the plague theory, which everybody's been introduced to the plague theory. 10 years ago or 15 years ago, nobody knew. I assure you, when we grew up and we did do that a few times. I don't remember doing it much. If I would have done that in fourth grade with my guy friends, I would have been beaten up on the playground. Let's do Ring Around the Rosie. Oh, you're going to get beat. I mean, we didn't do it. I remember doing it a few times as a little kid, I think. Or maybe I was a little older observing my grandmother doing it with younger cousins. I don't know, but it existed. And I assure you, nobody that was doing it back in the 70s and 80s related it in any way to plague. This theory is somewhat new, okay? Now it's being debunked. I don't know where to go from there. I just think it's fascinating. All right, let's go back to the basics and talk about the premise here that it is a massive stuffed Lenin or Humpty Dumpty. Again, it's not good enough. It's pretty lame. May have existed for a few months in one country 400 years ago, and then it would have just gone away. It wouldn't have been so great that every kid knows about it and every generation has to do it across country, continent. It's impossible. The most fascinating thing to me is how artificially it seems to be. For some reason, it has to be carried through time. So just to prove that, I mean, not that it has to be proven. Again, it is very similar to Humpty Dumpty. It's just not good enough to survive. Maybe in the right part of where did they do The Hills Are Alive with the sound of Griswolds? Where did they do The Sound of Music? Maybe a certain part of Austria could have survived for 40 years. That would have been the end of it. But you have all these different versions. Okay, remember the British version? That's the Philly again. British version. A tissue. The hell? We all fell down. Here's early on Wikipedia now. Early attestation. What does that mean? Variations. Blah blah blah. In a novel in 1855, the Old Homestead records a ring of roses, laps full of posies, awake, now come and make a ring of roses. And the YouTube debunkers are like, why? How come there's no mention of plague at all there? I mean, okay, let's forget the YouTube debunkers for now. They're playing their role for the not milk. Of course they are, whether they're aware of it or not. Another early version, Old Nursery Rhymes, 1881. Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies. Hush, 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 we all tumble down. Again, there's no possible connection one can make in those two to any sort of plague. Just simply kids playing around a rose bush and putting the flower pieces in their pocket. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. I mean, it's okay. Let's see another version here. Cited from New Bedford, Massachusetts, 1790. Ring a rosy, a bottle full of posy. All the girls in our town ring for little Josie. What the hell? Yeah, that's the other one of those YouTube debunkers were like, why would somebody be writing about Josie if it had to do with the play? Okay, Matt, don't mention it again. I'm not. Here's another one. 1880. Why is it always 1883? I mean, what the heck? Maybe it's from the same reference book, citing different versions. A ring of roses, a pocket full of posies. One for Jack and one for Jim. Oh, no. And one for little Moses. What the heck? A Tisha. So here's the common sense that proves it is a Humpty Dumpty or a stuffed Lennon. If you continue this research, and guys, I just did a small fraction, but you come across the Switzerland version or the version from Bavaria. So there's a different version, country to country, continent to continent, language to language. So this thing is so great. I mean, this just proves it to be a Humpty Dumpty or a stuffed Lennon. It's so great. Ring around the rosy, pocket full. Oh, that's so great that there has to be versions, and it just spread. And I guess it was so wonderful when the Austrians got it. They just sent kids running 26 miles across the border like little marathons. Run and spread this to the next village. But they don't like us over there in Holland or whatever. I don't care. They're going to love this. Spread this wonderful thing to the next village. And they went in and they sang their little ring around the road. And then everybody was like, thank you. The new country that just got it was like, thank you so much for giving that to me. And then they laid down music, their sheet music and musical accompaniment, whatever that means, for it, because the person that writes the music was like, that ring around the rosy, that is so wonderful. I have to write a tune to it. How did it spread country to country, continent to continent? Something nobody thinks about. How did it spread language to language? I mean, it's the same type of principle, in my opinion, going back to what we love to talk about, the big day with a job application in 2001. Like, who's the person in the 90s that raised their hand? Matt, it would have been hundreds of years before that. Whenever. Who's the person that raised their hand in the creepy meeting and said, I have an idea on what we can do for the millennial celebration on our calendar date. We give those proletariat January 1. They watch their balls drop with Dick Clark. He can't even speak anymore. We're on our date. I have a great... See, we just sensed there was nobody that came up with an idea. It's like a reality breakdown. It's similar here. How does this spread? You're visiting travelers from Bavaria into Belgium, and there's like, oh, we heard your children singing something, and we're quite taken with it. Well, can you bring those kids over here? Bring those kids over here. We want to take what they have and take it back to Bavaria or whatever. You play it, do it for us. Oh wow, ring around the rosy. That is wonderful. That's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard. I can't wait to take this back to Bavaria. I'll be a hero when it's taken back. What would have happened is they would have taken it back to Bavaria, and they would have been thrown out of the country, kicked out. Maybe, what's her name? Marie Antoinette. All I know about her situation is what I saw in the movie. But they pull up on the Austrian-Hungary-French border, and there's this ceremony. She's an Austria-Hungary princess or whatever. She became the Dauphine or Dauphin, whatever it is. I can't tell the difference, of France. But there's this ceremony. They got this long tunnel on the border. And she's got to strip down. She has to leave all of Austria behind. And she has a little dog, a little pug. It's like, no, you have to leave all of Austria behind. You have to strip down naked. You could have a French dog on the other side. I remember this ritual from the movie. But maybe when she got across the border, she's like, I got something for you guys. I want to give something back as a wedding present. I'm going to be the Dauphine or whatever. Ring around the rosy. They would have thrown her ass back across the Austria-Hungary border, and she would have never become no Austrian Dauphine of France or Queen of France and let them eat cake. How does this horrible shit spread? That's what's so fascinating. Your Humpty Dumptys, your ring around the rosies, your stuffed Lennons. There's no way they could spread. That's what exposes there's something weird in reality. I mean, reality. I did it again. I fully pronounced reality. This channel is about reality. If I can't pronounce the word properly, I'm not going to get very far. Reality. Reality. There was a kid next to me when I grew up. I'm not joking. I didn't know what he was saying. I kept saying, say it again. This little kid came up. He was saying, can I borrow your air pump for his bike? Can I borrow your air pump? What? Can I borrow your air pump? Say it again, dude. I don't know. I don't have any idea what you're saying. Can I borrow your air pump? Oh, can you borrow my air pump? Learn to speak, you little brat. So if you do research on this or you watch YouTube videos, which again, most now are trying to debunk or are successfully debunking the plague theory regarding Ring Around the Rosie, they would never stop for a second to question it or look at it the way we would. the way those sorts of people would. Not one of them just stops for a second and says, well, this isn't really what the video is about, but I was just thinking, because they're not allowed to think. People in general aren't allowed to think. How did this thing spread around the world the way it did? I mean, they don't ever go there. It's just like it's a given. It's just normal that like everybody in the world knows Ring Around the Rosie. Just completely normal that everybody in the world knows Humpty Dumpty without questioning it at all. The Humpty Dumpty that's most interesting to me is the old "if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to be there to hear it, does it make a sound?" And then again, you research this, the roots of that go back to 18 whatever or beyond. And sure. Yeah, they were just having quantum conversations sitting around the pubs of Dublin. Yeah, another pint. Yeah, we're pondering here. What are you guys talking about down the end there? Well, if a tree falls back in the Banshees of Inverness or whatever, and we're sitting here, but nobody's out down there, does it make a sound? What do you got? What the hell are you talking about? You see, we suspect an critical element is the conscious observer. What the conscious observer for what? To make reality happen. You think they would have been having that conversation? So it would never have happened. So maybe, I hear you if you're screaming at me, Matt, that could be a recent introduction of a Humpty Dumpty, but then the roots of it are faked. The lineage of it is faked. Sure, there's nobody sitting at the pubs back to 17 whatever having a quantum conversation. I mean, to me, the most obvious giveaway of this principle of things artificially carried through is the old "if a tree falls in the wood" phenomenon. So right now, I can't remember the other Humpty Dumptys we've talked about. There's a few more that I can't remember, but I just asked you right now to comment. We'll do videos about them in the future. Are there a few Humpty Dumptys that I'm missing? Things that are artificially carried through time because they have to be. And do you think we should do a video on them? So comment. I'll try to add to my list of known Humpty Dumptys. And if you're looking to add to the list, again, one of the key factors is not just that it's artificially brought to the top or artificially brought to the top of being famous or world recognized. It has to have a pretty long lineage, or we'll just name it something else. For example, like Hamilton, the play, in a way, is a Humpty Dumpty. Hamilton, the play, is a stuffed Lenin, but it doesn't have the long lineage. It's been artificially brought to the top, but it doesn't really qualify here, even though it has no merit to be considered the best play of all time. When the leading man, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Matt, you're going to start talking about this again. It's your favorite thing. It is. I'll keep it 30 seconds or less. When the leading man, can he sing? No. Can he dance? No. Can he rap? No. Is he a strong front man? No. What does he bring to the table? Nothing, honey. So the top play of all time, that the lead man can't sing, can't dance, can't scratch his balls properly, can't do shit. But it's artificial how great they told us Hamilton was, and the people, then you spend more money on tickets and you believe it, you expect it, and that's what you get. Even though if somebody stumbled upon it and all that hype wasn't behind it, you say, this sucks. It's a piece of shit. I want my money back. That's Hamilton is in a way, but it just doesn't qualify as a Humpty Dumpty, if you see what I mean. I didn't know till right now. Here's a movie from 2006, Ring Around the Rosie, as a movie, a horror movie. A young woman inherits a rundown mansion where she's plagued by horrible visions and dreams. As her nightmare becomes more vivid and those around her get increasingly violent, she must face the horrible memory she suppressed long ago of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I did a search, where has Ring Around the Rosie been a reference in what movies or media? And this movie list did come up. It doesn't show you or tell you how it's used or where it's used. And of course, that's just the way it's a defining characteristic of these Humpty Dumptys and stuffed Lenins, how the media itself or film and TV propagates it, just keeps propagating it. Just a scene in the backyard of kids doing Ring Around the Rosie just keeps it always kept to the forefront when something has to be artificially carried through time. Now, nothing rivals Humpty Dumpty in this regard. The number of times Humpty Dumpty has shown up somewhere, like he's in Shrek, a little 2-second scene in Shrek, for example, it's just all over the place, going back hundreds of years, and there's no way to explain it, because it just is a stupid little nursery rhyme that we understand why. There's a huge spiritual meaning, but to most people, they don't question why it's so popular. It's just on its own, word by word or line by line, it kind of sucks. Here it says counter-arguments to the plague theory. Counter-arguments why it's not associated with the plague. It says, folklore scholars, whatever that is, regard the Great Plague explanation of the rhyme as baseless for several reasons. That's the theme of all the YouTubers. Baseless. One guy's like, there isn't a written record that is associated with the plague anywhere in the world before like 1950. Like he's been over every single written record going back to the Great Plagues, even though there was two versions, one 1666, one back to the 1300s. They're so sure, so confident. And here it says, folklore, put your hands out, identical. Folklore scholars say it's baseless. What the hell's a folklore scholar? Is that something, a major I could have taken up at Penn State? I mean, talk about having limited opportunities after graduation. Well, Matt, if you're connected and under the creepy dragon's wing, the opportunities present themselves. That's right. If I would have taken the damn major, I'd be pumping gas. I would have never even gotten my first job. What are you? A folklore scholar. We ain't got folklore jobs here. Get out. Sorry. The counter arguments are four, and they start with number one. The plague explanation did not appear until the mid-20th century. Well, I guess what they mean by that is the oldest versions of Ring Around the Rosie didn't mention things that could in any way be associated with the plague. Exactly, that's Not Nilk. Not Nilk dragged the plague explanation in on purpose. Of course it did. Number two, the symptoms described do not fit especially well with the Great Plague. What the hell? Number two, it's saying the symptoms described in the child's game, in the ring around, do not fit especially well. So the child's game, the ring around the Rosie, is supposed to get into great detail with the plague symptoms, the smell of the bed sheets, the swelling of the anus. I mean, what the hell? Of course the symptoms are not going to be exactly described. It's not a TV show like Quincy. It's a damn child's game. Who writes this? What bot writes this shit? Number three, why a plague association is baseless. The great variety of forms makes it unlikely that the modern form is the most ancient one. Did it really just say that in a sentence? It makes it unlikely that the modern form is the most ancient one. How could the modern form ever be the most ancient one? Does the bot that writing this even understand definitions? Better said, a bot, if you're listening to me, the modern form likely evolved into something that doesn't have the ancient roots, is what you meant to say, I think. So, okay, unlikely the modern form is the most ancient one, and the words on which the interpretation are based are not found in many of the earliest records of the rhyme. Well, yeah, you're just saying the same thing twice, which was said in the first bullet point. Okay, just repeat. Hey, bot, listen to me. Repeating this from Cold Mountain. Repeating a thing don't improve it. All you're doing is juggling your first bullet point around. It's a chat GPT trick. Doesn't work on us. Last one. European and 19th century versions of the rhyme suggest that this, quote, fall, we all fall down, was not a literal falling down, but a curtsy or other form of bending movement, like Alec Baldwin bending over in the shower in The Hunt for Red October. It was not common to be a fall, but it's a bending movement or curtsy, which was common in other dramatic singing games. First of all, this one isn't true dramatic. I hate to tell you that, bot. This singing game is not dramatic. You might want to suggest a different word for your chat GPT there. But so let me get this straight, though. All the damn times, what it's saying here is very simple. All the damn times we fell down, we didn't have to, or we shouldn't have. You know the waste of laundry detergent, this misinterpretation of what the damn game should have been about? You know how many holes were put in Tough Skins? What the F? However, there's another side to this. It does say it was most likely a curtsy. That wouldn't have gone over well in my neighborhood. Like, guy, let's do Ring Around the Rosie. First of all, we shouldn't even be doing it. Sixth graders are like, what are those second graders doing over there? If they're doing Ring Around the Rosie, they're going to get beat. And then we go over and we're doing it. You guys aren't even falling down. You're curtsying. You're going to get beat. I understand now why we fell down. And real men as once boys decided to change that. They ain't going to curtsy. Here's another paragraph showing people like you and me what's really going on, because we're the only ones that can see through the shit. The lyrics vary, but a modern interpretation based on modern lyrics The bot that wrote this is using the word modern 5 words away from each other? No, this isn't bot written. A real person writes all this Wikipedia stuff, but we'll never meet one person for the remainder of our natural lives that ever wrote for Wikipedia. So, Matt, just read the damn thing. The lyrics vary, but a modern interpretation based on modern lyrics that related the words to the plague in England became widespread post-World War II, even though it appears to be a false folk etymology. Okay, you're saying the same thing again. Again, it's saying, well, why did the plague association with Ring Around the Rosie get so popular after World War II? If it was always associated with the plague, then those ties and roots would have been traced all the way back to the plague itself. Okay, we got it. Okay, stop saying it to me in just a different way, bot. You and I would interpret this a little bit different. We don't just bow down to what Wikipedia says. See, it's very simple to people like us. Matt, don't put words in my mouth. I think in this case, I can. I think the old guard would agree. If all of a sudden this Ring Around the Rosie became attached and very closely associated to the plague after World War II, that's what, you know what that is? Anybody in the back? Yes. Yeah, that's not Nilk manipulation. That's right. Who are you? Zachariah? That's not Nilk manipulation. Not Nilk wanted it for some reason to be associated with the plague. Is that anybody in the back would know why that might be? I know it's nothing too crazy in this classroom. Yeah, who are you? Josephina? Because not Nilk knows that real creative beings in some way influence reality? Well, I hear you. I like the way you're thinking, but it wasn't that common. Like if every single TV show was pushing how the lyrics of the Ring Around the Rosie was related to plague and everybody knew that, it's still, you could say, somewhat esoteric information. But I like the way you think back there. There's a reason why the Not Nilk wanted the association. If the association was so important in Not Nilk, then it would have put it on the back of on the front of a stamp or on the back of a quarter. It would have plastered it, or everybody would know it. Matt, more people know that association than you think. It needs to be very subtle. Maybe. I don't know. And we're definitely getting in the weeds here. I guess I'll wrap it up. But see what you think in the comments. And, of course, the crazier your explanation about shit like this, what we found is actually closer to the truth. It's always closer to the truth than what Wikipedia presents or your high school textbook. Thanks for listening.